late, but hey, you know what? Life is just kind of rolls off of moment to moment, and they topple onto each other. So what is time? You know what I
Oh,
mean?
gosh,
But it
now we're
is
getting philosophical.
it is time for the PNW Today show, and look at this, Richard. Look at all these beautiful smiling faces this morning.
Outstanding. You made it happen, Jim. And I think we're just missing Vanessa Allen McLeod. So we're
Dr. Vanessa Ellen McLeod calling the very happy semi-newlywed to the call. Dr. McLeod, please report to Zoom. I know her. I'm not making any fun of her or anything, but here's the thing. On the screen right now, there are three beautiful women who got up early and are ready and have excellent backgrounds. You guys all look amazing. And then there's this ragged dude with long hair and hasn't brushed his teeth in a couple days. How's that feel? You're supposed to answer so I can test your audio on
so
that
good
one.
morning, Julia. Could you have a good read on us?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Anaya, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. How about you?
Okay, and Yolanda, am I saying that
Yep,
right?
Yolanda. Yep, and I'm great, and I'm glad that I'm not in the studio since you haven't brushed your teeth. So
It's a bit of an
I'm doing great.
exaggeration,
Well, on
but
top of that, when I got to the front door today, there was a bag with a big donut covered with coconut for Jim, and he immediately gobbled it up. It's not offered up to the other members of the studio staff.
exactly. Hey guys, when I'm gonna get rid of my video on this, and then when you see me again, that's like the end of the show. So thanks for joining us today. I can't wait to see what he's got going
And
for
Jim,
us.
just a sec, Jim, and we'll try to get Vanessa in here if she's able to call in.
Sure.
Great. Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Uh,
Good morning.
I'm Richard Rupp. Welcome to PNW Today. It's February the 14th, which happens to be my dad's 90th birthday. So happy birthday, Nordic Norm. I'm Richard Rupp, your host and Norm's son. We have a great show today, as Jim was just alluding to. Hopefully four terrific guests, very accomplished guests. Our topic today is PNW commemorates Black History Month, and my guests are Yolanda Mosley, who is our PNW's Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management and Student Affairs, Dr. Vanessa Allen McLeod, who I am sure is trying to break through the cybersecurity factors at the moment. President.
I have her phone number, so
Okay.
let me try to work on
You
that.
bet.
Just go with the show if
You
she
bet,
makes
sure.
it.
President of CEO of Urban League of Northwest Indiana. She's a regular on PNW Today. And there's Julia Cook Jones. We've got two amazing students on today's show who is pursuing her Master's of Business Administration. And truth be told, she was my teaching assistant about 3 years ago. Very happy to see you here today. And Anaya Edwards, who I'm getting to know, is Purdue Northwest student pursuing her degree in civil engineering. So welcome, ladies. It's fantastic to have you in the studio today.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
I tell you what, before we launch into what we're our topic today of Black History Month and all the events on campus and all the events going around the country, just a little bit of news before we go forward. I want to say a big thank you to the amazing faculty, staff, and students at PNW's Hospitalities and Tourism Management, who afforded me an incredible lunch and dinner yesterday. So this is their weekly lunch that they're doing. It's a pickup lunch. And I saw it on Tuesday. I thought, that sounds great. And so I was shameless. I went over and picked up everything yesterday. The vegetarian pho, the Asian salad, the cashew chicken, the Mongolian beef, the turkey lettuce wraps, the peanut butter pie, tapioca pudding, and somebody even put in a nice cup of fruit for the aging Dr. Rupp. So it was an amazing treat, and it was incredibly well done. And I have to tell you, it was wonderful to see probably 20 students at HTM all masked up but still working. And Dr. Pitt Stomper and my good friend Dr. Godwin Charles Ogbade are also launching our dinners starting next Wednesday. We're going to do a tour of the world with Japan, France, South America, Germany, Poland, Southeast Asia, Spain, Italy, and the United States. So I just want to say thank you so much for that amazing meal, and to encourage everybody to come to HTM and support our students. It's easy, they make it incredibly easy for you to come in and have really, really a tasty, tasty dinner and lunch, and we really appreciate the feedback that you give us, because that's a big part of this program. What else do we have coming up? Next Monday, PNW is launching our new series for the spring It's called On the Other Side, PNW Examines the Post-COVID World. And we've put a lot of time into selecting 4 topics that PNW has serious expertise on, but we also invited community experts to come in and share their thoughts on several important issues. The first is going to be leadership. The global pandemic has challenged leadership at all levels and contexts. Many leaders have had to find new ways of leading as they deal with the crisis and changes in how their organizations operate. How has leading through the pandemic changed how leaders set priorities and affect change? What does leadership look like in the post-COVID world? I think this is going to be a tremendous day. We have, as many of you know, Dr. Rachel Clark-Smith, head of our Leadership Institute. But what Rachel's done is marvelous. She's invited 4 community leaders that 2 of them at least you'll know. Mr. Craig Dwight, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Horizon Bancorp, and we also were delighted to invite Dean Mazzoni, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Franciscan Health. Few folks have had more challenges than banking and healthcare in the last year, so we're delighted that they'll be joining us. And also we have Dr. Janaki Guti, who is a management and organizational science specialist from University of North Carolina. So come enjoy that talk. You just simply go to the PNW webpage and On the Other Side, and it's the same format of our racism series. You just log on, it's easy, and we'll have an hour and 15 minutes starting at noon next Monday. Lastly, and this was a big surprise to 22 students at PNW and Dr. Nikki Jackson's criminal justice class last week, a special guest, Kim Kardashian. Did you hear that, Jim? We had Kim Kardashian at PNW last week. Dr. Jackson, as you know, is very engaged in the wrongful convictions pursuit, and so is Kim Kardashian. So Nikki quietly arranged a surprise visit, and Kim Kardashian, who's actually working on her JD right now, came in and spoke to the class. Apparently, it was a big, big success. So kudos to Nick.
She came in?
Yes, she was on. You go to our webpage. You can. I see her. I'm holding my script right now. So how awesome was that?
That is, I'm dumbfounded that got past me. And my wife's a big Kim Kardashian fan.
Well, I don't know if it was taped, but I'll send you the link.
She's got 4 kids with Kanye West, right? Isn't that right?
This is a little bit out of my league, but I'm so excited about this. We have an academic leadership team meeting on Friday, and I've actually invited Barbara Streisand. So I'm very hopeful that that will work out.
I got to be honest with you. Out of the 2, I would much rather interview Kim Kardashian. I know she's going to work at the law school. She and Kanye West have a beautiful family. I would have loved to talk to her on that end. But darn, that's a great coup for PNW, and way to go.
We were delighted to have it. All right, well, let's turn to our show today. Because then I saw her moments ago that Dr. Vanessa Allen McLeod is in the studio. So again, today what we're doing is we're commemorating and celebrating Black History Month. We have an incredible array of events around campus, but what a year this has been. Actually, it's a year ago, just today, I suppose, that Anaya was in the studio with me, and we were chatting earlier in this week about what a year it has been in the life of the country and in the context of Black Lives Matter. I'm driving this morning trying to think of positive things, and I don't want to lose sight that we just inaugurated the first African-American female vice president. So it's an incredible year. What I'd like to do is begin with my good friend, and welcome Dr. McLeod.
Good morning, Jim, and good morning to all of my other distinguished colleagues on this Zoom interview. Glad to be here.
We're delighted to have you, Vanessa. So, Yolanda, in your senior position at PNW, you oversee student affairs. In addition to enrollment management, you have a very multifaceted portfolio. Now, I've been at PNW 20 years, and actually, Vanessa actually dates me because she goes back to her education here at PNW, or early education. And this year's Black History Month events are extraordinary. You and your staff have done an absolute terrific job working with the students on making this such an incredible year. What explains the excitement and the efforts that have gone on to making this month particularly striking in our history of celebrating Black history?
Thanks, Richard. And I have to echo Dr. McLeod. This is a great group of young women that you've assembled with us today. So I'm very excited to be a part of the conversation today. When I think about Black History Month, there's three things that come to mind: community, resiliency, and the ability to be able to tell our story. And that history wasn't a missing element, which is why the notion of a Black History Month was and is so important. And when you think about this past year and the pandemic, it's really highlighted the necessity to maintain those values. There's the societal issues that were there prior to the pandemic that the pandemic has now shown a light on very brightly that we still have to deal with. Underemployment, healthcare disparities, race relations, education. Those are all very important, critical issues. And now they've exploded, and there needs to be a voice, which I think when you look at Black History Month, just across the nation, but then when you look at PNW's campus and the events that we are involved in, we're highlighting those conversations. We're talking about Black Lives Matter. We're talking about perseverance and strength that is important parts of our community and how to stay healthy during these challenging times. And we do have some successes. And I think when you look at the calendar, you'll see that. We do have our first Black and Southeast Asian woman who is serving as vice president. And so that, I think when you think about our culture, there's that resiliency that we know the challenges and we know that there's obstacles, but we don't stop. We're always coming for bigger and better things. And when I think bigger and better, I also think about our students. And so it's very exciting to be a part of a celebration of this month that brings our community together. And it's not just our faculty and it's not just our staff, but it's our students that have rallied around Black History Month and what it means for PNW, but also recognizing that it's just 1 month. And so there's 12 months out of the calendar that we need to continue those, those cultural values of community, resiliency, and telling our story that I think we'll be continuing to do when you look at, especially life after what will hopefully be normal after the pandemic, but really our way of forging community. And it'll be even more important because our students are very fractured because there's not that opportunity for them to come together with faculty and staff and with each other to sort of have an opportunity to gather strength from one another. So when you look at the calendar of events, you see all of that highlighted.
Well, I think if you don't mind, I think I can speak for you and Vanessa, because when we met with these amazing young women who we'll bring on shortly earlier in the week, I think it filled us with great joy because, the three of us have been in this struggle, this debate for decades, and to see the vitality and the excitement of this upcoming generation, which is empowered in ways that the African American community really has never been activated in this kind of way at these times is so exciting. But Vanessa, I'm going to make you come in here for a moment because I know you want to talk to our young students. But tell me a little bit about what's going on at Urban League and because of course we celebrate Black History Month, but we all know this is 24/7, 365 days a year. But we take the month of February to do our level best. In fact, there's a wonderful article in today's front page of today's Northwest Indiana Times about a young woman named Kendall Jackson at Lake Central High School who just became an Eagle Scout. And she's one of the few African-American female Eagle Scouts out there, and it is just awesome. So Vanessa, a few words from you, and then we'll bring in our students.
Good morning, Jim. Thank you so much again, and blessings to everyone that's here. The Urban League of Northwest Indiana provides services in education, financial stability, and we also offer programming in diversity and inclusion where we have courageous conversations about stereotyping, implicit bias. I'm just grateful to say that we've been challenged not only this past year, but this is a problem that has stemmed back 400 years. But now the light has been shown, especially when we watch the insurrection. I think the insurrection of the Capitol again reminded us of white privilege. It reminded us that there are those who can come in their white skin and be allowed to march down city blocks, knowing that they were marching to the Capitol, and nothing was done. The police weren't called, the National Guard wasn't called. However, when you look back on some of the protests or the demonstrations, the nonviolent demonstrations of Black Lives Matter, they had military, National Guard. So it's just a difference, and we continue to see that. So racism is still at the forefront. However, we're still fighting that with conversations. We are still engaging in conversations with organizations and with agencies that want to have those types of conversations in their offices. Kendall Jackson, you mentioned, yes, she in fact is a member of our NIPSCO Urban League Career and College Readiness Program. So we are very excited to have an outstanding student such as Kendall and so many other students to take part in our program.
She's a member of Troop 53 in Gary, Indiana.
There you go. That's right. We know her. I know her mother personally. So it just goes to show you that in spite of maybe the challenges and the obstacles that may face our students and community, we still have students that are able to excel and make Gary, Indiana proud. She is a Gary, Indiana student, raised here, born here, and we're thankful to put the highlight out on Gary, and not just Gary. At this point, we celebrate throughout the region. Everyone is speaking about Kendall, and everyone wants to take a part in acknowledging her success. So I want to just continue to let you know that if anyone is interested in having those courageous conversations, the Urban League has facilitators, and you just have to call our office at 887-9621. And just one other thing, Jim, the Urban League also offers scholarships for high school graduating seniors. We have scholarships on our website. If you are a high school graduating senior in Lake Porter or LaPorte County, there is money available for you, as well as returning adult students. So just go to our website at www.ulofnwi.org. And I must commend Yolanda. You know, Black History is 365 days out of the year, because it was on our shoulders that these United States was built.
Indeed.
Thank you, Jim.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Vanessa. So let's bring in our two students. So we have Julia, who is a master's student in business administration, and Anaya, who is working on civil engineering. And we have to talk about the good research you're doing in bamboo construction. I found that was fascinating. But so, ladies and gentlemen, both of these young women are really key to, frankly, making PNW and the region a better place. We're going to talk. I'm going to let them talk a little bit about their specific activities. But not only are they excellent students in the classroom and in the labs, but they are really leaders in promoting a greater presence and a greater identity for the African American community at PNW and in the region. So, Julia, I'm going to open with you. You've been here, I suppose, a little bit longer than Anaya. You're both, I believe, both citizens, residents of Gary. So Jim will probably come in a little later and talk to you about that. But from your perspective, Julia, what have you been able to do at PNW to raise issues and raise important questions and to get action?
Alrighty, so hi everyone again. So going into Black History Month, there wasn't any strategic planning until I brought to Student Life's attention and Dean of Students, I have this whole agenda made for Black History Month. And it was very prevalent on my mind to do this because when George Floyd had died, Purdue Northwest only sent out an email. So I don't know why would we keep doing that. We're steady pushing emails when we should be taking action. And that's what we lack as a university. We hide behind these emails, but we're not pushing ourselves to take action for our students. So that's really what led everything for the Black History program. We started it off with a speed painter, which was great. He even gave away some great paintings of MLK, Chad Boseman. Like, it was great. So now my upcoming project that I hope everyone attends is my Black Lives Matter car parade. It's going to be next Saturday, the 27th, and it starts at 9 a.m., but lineup starts at 8:30 a.m. So we will also be giving out car decorations. So I really want everyone to come out and support that, because we just really need to get out there as a community, just not only to raise awareness, but just to let the community know we hear you. We are here for you. We represent you. So that's really about it.
Oh, I think there's a lot more, my friend, because hasn't the chancellor kicked in for the parade in some special way?
Yes, the chancellor will actually be providing 150 long sleeve T-shirts. So make sure you guys come check it out. I really thank him for that, because like, you never know how much of a great person he is until he actually, steps in and kicks in. Like, okay.
He's a pretty good guy. More people get to know him, they have that kind of experience. And in fact, a lot of people perhaps don't know that Chancellor Keon, for at least it was his term 2 years, was the president. Was that his title, Vanessa, of the Urban League of Northwest Indiana?
Chancellor Keon was actually our board chair.
Board chair, excuse me, right.
I tried to hold on to him for another session. You know how you just keep people on? But Chancellor Keon was very supportive and served as our board chair, and he remains on the board of the Urban League, and he has been very supportive and instrumental in the diversity and inclusion climate in terms of offering information and sharing his wisdom. So yes, Chancellor Keon has been one of my greatest supporters, and I'm going to keep him on the board. He doesn't know yet, but he may have another term coming up after our, but I'll talk to him offline.
Oh, sure. I think you just talked to him online. So, Anaya, what you've been up to, just like Julia, has been really amazing on campus. I'd like you to share a little bit about yourself, and so many interesting components of what you're doing. Sisters with a Purpose, your president. But tell us a little bit about your activities and just what you want the viewers to hear. You sent me a great email this morning about what you really want to say about the life of African Americans on campus and in the world. So the studio is yours.
Yes. So I grew up half of my life in Gary, Indiana, for half of my education, and then I moved to the Maryville school system, and I grew up in the Maryville school system for the second half of my life. So just moving around, even though they're neighbors, they're right next to each other, moving around from school system to school system, it really revealed to me the similarities between African Americans when it comes to the educational system and when it comes to the support and resources that they have. I remember coming from Gary thinking that things were going to be different because people shunned Gary so much. Mm-hmm. They shunned Gary so much, and they just thought negatively, especially of African Americans that came from Gary. And I went to Maryville, and the same plight was put upon African Americans in Maryville. So it really shows that for African Americans across the board, it doesn't matter where you are, we are suffering the same plight, especially in the educational system. So upon entering college, when I saw the, lack of promotion, not just of African American faculty, but just student organizations in itself, you don't really hear about those the first day you enter campus as much as you hear about other student organizations. So, and that's very important considering that there's not a lot of us on campus anyway. So to hear about other people like you and other people having the same experiences as you, that's very, very important. So when I joined Sisters with a Purpose, my first year entering campus, the experience was just world changing.
How so?
Because just meeting with the bright, intelligent, strong young women and hearing about their experiences and relating to them and knowing about what they go through. And me as a STEM student, a female African-American STEM student, that's you don't get that interaction a lot. And people don't realize it, but that's very, very crucial, especially for African Americans when we lack so much. The main thing that we need is each other. So seeing SWAP and seeing how they function, seeing that we help each other and seeing brother to brother, it's not just the female side, it's the male side, seeing the African American men on campus, seeking education, seeking to make each other stronger and to deal with the women and band together with the women. That was just amazing. They held tutoring sessions. They're trying to better each other. So I just loved seeing that because you don't see that a lot. So when COVID hit and when we had the whole quarantining thing, I knew that the student organizations that would get the least amount of attention would be the minority student organizations. So I didn't want to let them fall under. So when this 2020-2021 school year began, I really tried to be proactive, even if we're distant and even if we're quarantined, to just deal with each other, to talk with each other, to help each other, because that's what's going to keep us afloat. So I recently became elected this semester as president of SWAP, and I just hope to really promote dealing with each other on campus. African Americans need to reach out to faculty, reach out, even though you don't see them, try to find them, try to seek them, and when you find them, hold on to them, because this world will get you down, and it's very important. It's very important for our survival, essentially, is to keep in contact with each other.
Well, maybe after your tenure with the current group, you might want to think about running for student body president, because then we take it up a couple of notches. So, Julie, actually, both of you have worked with TRIO. Would you talk to us a little bit about the kind of work you do with TRIO?
Alrighty, so I'm actually Upper Bound alumni of class of 2015. So shout out to all TRIO works. So with Upper Bound, I work with them as a RA and also as an instructor for some of them classes. And I also work with TRIO's student support services as a peer mentor. Now, the only reason I've been so actively involved with TRIO, and just like Anaya said, is because that's our representation. That seems like the only representation we have on the Purdue University Northwest campus. And to me, that's pretty sad. I can tell you the only African-American professor I had was in 2013. That's saying a lot. So we really need to work on that. But when it comes to TRIO, like Anaya said, we're a family. We're not just colleagues and like peers. No, we're a family. Like, we come together. If you need anything, oh, let me help you. You need some books, I got you. Like, it's just like that. But it's, to me, like, TRIO is just a whole different, like, thing. Like, from just the support from education, but also the outside support with mental family. Like, it's more than just education with them. Right. And I feel like as a PNW community, that is how it's supposed to be regardless. It shouldn't just be, oh, let's get tuition up, or let's like build our retention. Like, no, let's actually see what students want. Let's figure out what events is needed.
Well, I guess it sounds, you're telling me, Alexa, we're sounding on the right track, but we've got a good ways to go. Anaya, do you want to come in here on this?
Yes, so about TRIO, I work as a peer coach, and it's simply just contacting students and notifying them and making them aware of the resources that are offered by TRIO, both academic and collegiate and financially related. And I just wish that I had those resources as a child and that I was aware of them. Right. Because, like I said earlier, those academic resources, especially coming from people that look like you and that suffer the same things that you do, that's just really helpful. And talking to some of the students and their parents, it's just amazing to see how they really do have a relationship with the staff and with the members of TRIO. They call them by first name.
That's awesome.
Right. And they talk about certain discussions that they've had with them in the past. So it's not just an organization that's distanced. It's more so a very close organization, specifically because it's dedicated to minorities. So.
I tell you what, before I bring Jim in, and it would just be a sec, Jim, I want to briefly talk about what Vanessa made reference to about white privilege on the insurrection at the Capitol. Actually, there's a front page article in the New York Times today about 3 young African American staffers from the Hill and how they uniquely experienced it as young African American men being under attack that day in January. But the reason why I want to talk about white privilege is the 4 of us, or 5 of us, were chatting earlier in the week, and I think this is the first time on my show I've had 4 women and 4 African American women. And we started talking about white privilege, and I talked about a little bit about my own and how it was a journey for me, because I like to think that throughout my life I've been very much part of whatever was passing as Black Lives Matter. It's been a huge part of my teaching, as Vanessa knows and Yolanda know. For me, I think this would be a much better country if people knew their history well. And so I spend a lot of time in all of my classes, especially in American government, et cetera, focusing on the African American experience. And so when the white privilege conversation started going, I had people talking to me that, well, Richard, you have white privilege too. And I have to confess, I pushed back just a little bit because I felt I was such a supporter. What are you talking about? And as it has become more common, I examine myself. I mentioned my dad's 90th birthday today. My parents have been pretty generous to me over the years, and I've been able to buy homes that I probably could not have afforded without frankly the capital of my family. And just looking at me in the screen right now, I am a aging, gray-haired white man. That opens doors. It has always opened doors, and it took me a while, but I think if I can get it, then we keep going forward with that. Jim, you're a rapidly graying haired white man. How are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm always happy to see Vanessa. We don't get to see each other enough. So I don't know the other 3 women well, but I know Vanessa's always worth a rather hearty laugh, and we've had many in the past. I guess I'm so energized by Julia and Anaya speaking so openly about issues that, we don't always get to hear or, quite frankly, get spoken so openly. Anaya, you're talking about going from Gary to Maryville and seeing the educational challenges. Gary Maryville is kind of the heart of a lot of African-American issues in the region. Maryville is maybe the most diverse school in Indiana, if not in America, and the community is dealing with how do you go about with that. But I do want to circle back on one thing that you said about that transition, the educational opportunities, and I want you to just be honest. Educational opportunities at PNW. For, say, white people and black people, is it equal, and how do you feel?
Yeah, so the educational opportunities, at least from my experience on PNW campus, there are resources there for African Americans, no doubt. There are resources that exist, but the promotion of them, because like you said, with the generational wealth and the generational resources that go with white people, they know their history. They know their student organizations when it comes to campus. They know their student organizations. They're promoted heavily. I can't go a week without hearing about some of these same student organizations. But when it comes to African American minority student organizations, you rarely ever hear about those, and you really do have to search for them. I came upon SWAP just by luck. By luck, I would have to say. I came upon SWAP by luck. So it's not that the resources do not exist. It's that the access to them are not as heavily promoted as other ones are.
That's very interesting, Anaya. If I can jump in, Jim, I'm part of TRIO. I am a product of the Educational Talent Search. I'm dating myself. When I came there in 1986 as a returning adult student, I was secretary in the Educational Talent Search department. and I transitioned all the way to the Ronald E. McNair program, where I served there alongside Roy Hamilton, who was the director at that time. So I understand what you're saying. The resources are there, and they need to be highlighted more. And you and Julia can do that. I would recommend that you continue to have a conversation with Yolanda and make an appointment to speak with Chancellor Keon. His door is open, I know, and he's very receptive on ways, and maybe you can come up with 2 or 3 goals on how the university can provide better resources to advertise. It could be a newsletter. It could be something else that you want to do that. But definitely the TRIO program are programs there to help in the transition of African American and minority students to advance. If it was not for student support services and Upward Bound and Talent Search, some students would fall by the wayside. So take a look at your retention rate and talk to those persons who are heading those departments. But when you talk to them, Julia and Anaya, come with your 3 points on recommendations on what you feel would help in advertising and promoting, so that more students will know about the programs. Thanks, Jim, for letting me jump in.
And like I said, it's always good to see you. And I think we're dating ourselves, is that we're relative age peers, and we've been around a long time. And I would like to follow up on that. You guys remember Dr. Regina D. Biddings, Murrow? Anybody?
Oh, you
I know
betcha.
Vanessa does.
Yes.
She and I broke into the game in 1985 together here at WJOB, and have been pretty good friends. I miss her. She's out in California now. And it was a few years ago, and I asked her on one of these things, and maybe it's been a number of years now, said, let's think about when you were in 85 and we were hanging out together at JOB and PNW and what it is now. I'm like, has it improved? Is it better for young African-American women coming onto the PNW campus? And she looked at me and she's like, are you kidding me? It is 1,000 times better than when I came. You saw what I went through. You know what I faced in 1985. Vanessa, is it better?
It's better, but it's still challenging because of all of the racism and the up in your face, somewhat stereotyping. Students of color now have to be a little more cautious and careful, because some white people feel privileged to say and do certain things. Just like on the Capitol, had that been Black people marching before we would have gotten 2 blocks from the Capitol, I'm sure there would have been a shooting, gassing, dogs, and everything else. But for white people to march and break in like they did and walk through, they're still arresting people, but it would have been, and then there were a couple of police officers who actually died as a result of this. Had that been Black people, it would have been a totally different story. So I suggest that everyone on this call and within the listening audience, Google a YouTube video called Segregation by Design. Segregation by Design. It's about a 15-minute YouTube clip that takes you back and actually gives you some information, a historical account of what has happened over the years. So is it better? Yes, we have moved forward because of Dr. Martin Luther King, because of Kamala Harris being our vice president now. Yes, we have moved forward, and we've moved forward with some of the white people that have joined as our allies, because sometimes we need you, Jim, and you, Rich, to step up and say, I support
Right.
Black Lives Matter, and I support unity, and I support the efforts in eradicating racism. So we have to come together. So I appreciate you, Jim, and Rich coming forward, and so many others. When you saw Dr. Martin Luther King march, it wasn't all African American people. There was a very diverse population. If you go back to slavery time, there were white people who were assisting in the Underground Railroad. So it's not to count you out, but I just want to say that there is a lot of hatred that's still prevalent in these United States, and we have to continue having conversations, and we have to continue to support students like Julia and Anaya so that they can move on and move forward. And just to say this, some of you may not know, when I was there as a student, a returning adult student, I was around 26, 27 years old, and I was the vice president of the Black Student Union. At that time, Purdue was not actually honoring Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday as a holiday. So it was because of myself and the other Black Student Union members. We called the NAACP, we called the churches, and we marched over to Lachey Hall, and we were able to get the university to honor, throughout the entire university system, to honor Dr. King's birthday. So continue to keep up the good work, continue to fight, but I also encourage all of our other colleagues, white, Asian, LBGQT, just
Right.
everyone, to join in the support of how we can move forward the platform of eradicating racism.
Well, I tell you, I'll be real quick here. Just a quick suggestion for Julia and Anaya. This idea of this YouTube that Vanessa just mentioned, Segregation by Design. Why don't we organize an event around that? We can either do it on campus. I think we can still do 25 students, or we can do one of our really great Zoom events. But this is the sort of thing that we need to keep pressing on. And maybe if it were live, we could have Vanessa in the Zoom call or on campus. But more regular events. And then one last thing before I turn back over to Jim. Anaya, you were and Julia really talking about getting the message out at PNW, and the message is not adequately put out. I think what I think is that we do a pretty good job with exceptional students like the two of you, but you had to search it out, as you mentioned, Anaya. I mean, and everybody should know that Anaya is a member of the PNW Honors College. But what we really need to figure out are these students who might be a little bit isolated and really don't have an ability or a understanding of how they can become involved. And that's certainly something that we need to work much more on so that our reach is much broader.
And if I can jump in really quick, I want to piggyback a little bit on that. And it follows with what Anaya was saying about that generational.
Hey, Yolanda, I need to do this real quick, otherwise I'll lose everybody. Okay. Hey, just hold on one second. Hey, everybody on the radio driving around. We have gone well past with PNW today, and we are talking with Julia Cook, Yolanda Mosley, Anaya Edwards, and of course, Dr. Vanessa McLeod, whom many of you recognize. Dr. Richard Rupp is in the studio, and you're listening to AM 1230 and WJOB and 104.7 FM. You're also watching, many of you, on JED TV. And Yolanda, this is Yolanda Edwards who is going to be speaking now. Go ahead, Yolanda.
So one of the things that Anaya was saying was this generational wealth. And we also have this issue of generational knowledge. So for our students who are coming, especially first generation college students, I was one of those students. We're coming to campuses where we don't know these unwritten rules. Right. We don't know the resources that we're supposed to seek out. And so there's a lot of onus that's put on our students. And that's really why I'm in the profession that I'm in. I had these experiences as an undergrad student. The suggestion I was given when I had challenges was to drop out, to come back, where the reality is that once you leave a campus, especially as an African-American woman, the likelihood of coming back is really slim. Mm-hmm. How do you serve as a resource and an advocate and someone who develops solutions for our students? And so we have to, as professionals, and I on one hand, I completely agree with Julia. We do have an abundance of our multicultural staff in our EOP program, but there's others of us that are around campus. I'm probably one of the newer folks, and I have the disadvantage of coming during the pandemic, so I can't be on campus and form that sense of community. But there's individuals on campus, faculty and staff, that are there specifically to rally around our students. We're there to make sure that we can pass that baton on to you. And I'm super excited once again that Anaya and Julia are so strong with their words and their conviction. But there's lots to be done on the student end. But I also will say, as someone who's worked in higher education for more than 25 years, it's hard as a professional. It's hard as an African-American woman to make these strides. So that sense of community also is necessary for those of us that are putting it on our shoulders to support our students. We also need your love, and we also need your support, and also from the community as well, so that we can do that good work and we can have that good fight of making these conversations that we're having something of the past. I'm a product of parents that were active in the civil rights movement. My father, growing up, was the executive director of the civil rights department. And I remember as a high school student sitting in my living room with C.T. Vivian. These are conversations that have been happening for decades. Mm-hmm. And my parents, Jim, you were saying, has it gotten better? My parents will look and there's definitely examples of how we've improved. But my mom, who's 70, almost, well, I won't say her age. I'll get in trouble for that.
You just did.
But I didn't say it all the way. You don't know how far into 70 she is. So, but she's scared. She's like, I haven't seen things like this since I was a young girl. And she is a product of that Southern migration that came from Mississippi and moved to Iowa for a better life. And she's like, I feel like we've gone so far backwards that I've not been as a woman as I was back in the 50s. So I think we've made definite growth, but there's a long way to go. And I hope, that when Anaya and Julia are 30 years from now, these conversations aren't happening, and that we're having much different conversations about race relations, or the notion that how we interact with one another on a much positive accord becomes the norm versus sort of the things that we have to draw attention to because they're so different.
Two things. Julia, we're going to come to you. Reiterate. I know you've got plenty to say, I could tell. Reiterate what you're doing with this car procession.
Okay, so due to COVID and being friendly, if you don't know, back in the day when we had the degree changes, I was one of the young ladies that organized it with a couple of my colleagues. And that turned out to be phenomenal. As you can see, we had ABC News come in, all of that. But it took for our actions to do that. So I really wanted to push the car parade for Black Lives Matter because we have to do something. We can't just sit down and just keep twiddling our thumbs. We have to get out there. So with this car parade, we are going to line up in our cars. We're going to honk our horns. If you want to get out your car, by all means get out your car, but stand beside it now. Don't do too much. But just to send awareness to our community. If we're going to become this Purdue University Northwest community-owned Indianapolis, let's let them know that we're actually here within the community and we're vouching for our people. We just cannot be, we're just about our students. No, we're about the community, because without the community, there is no PNW.
All right, where and when is the Black Lives Matter car parade?
So it's going to be next Saturday, the 27th. We're going to start at 9 a.m., but the lineup is going to start at 8:30 a.m. on 169th Street parking garage. So if you come in on 169th Street, you can't miss the parking garage right there. All right, and we'll also be providing some car decorations, but feel free to make your own flyers, posters, and all of that. But I really need to go back to Miss Yolanda, because when she brought up the pregnancy aspect, so I got pregnant my junior year of college. And it's so ironic because when I was talking to my professors, one of my professors told me, I really think that you should just sit this semester out. But then it was another Caucasian woman that was also pregnant with me. And I was like, did he tell you to sit this out? And she told me no. He told me that I could finish. So that just really thought to myself, I'm like, wow, they really do this here. But instead of doing what he said, I pushed through. I had my son, and then I kid you not, the next couple of weeks, I was finishing my homework, and I said, "Here you go. I do not want an IP. I want my grade." And it's sad that we have to push for stuff like that, but it's like, you can't let no one knock you down. You just always got to elevate. And you got to show, it's sad that we got to show our own professors that I can elevate. So don't try to knock me down.
All right, so it's not this Saturday, it's the following Saturday, so it's 10 days from now. And
Yes.
it's Saturday the 27th at 9 a.m. Do you know where you're going to drive?
Yes, we're going around. So 169, we're going to go all the way around to 173rd. I don't know how many times we're going to do that, but I know we're just going all the way around.
So you're going to
And it's
circle
all back.
campus a couple of
Yes.
times. All right, I'll have my Tony Panic out there with you guys, and get some video and that kind of stuff. All right, so
I appreciate
there's so much.
Tonight. It's Petty Poetry with Ashley Hayes, and given the topic that we're having, she will talk about petty poetry, and it's an art form for expressing emotions in a healthy way. It's at 6 o'clock tonight. It's a Zoom program. Students can go to the Black History Month website for PNW and get information and register. But as much as we're talking about what is happening, there's always the need to maintain health during these challenging times. Pre-pandemic as well. And so this workshop should be a great opportunity for students and all of our PNW community to maintain that healthfulness.
Wow, it's a lot. I want to know why I'm not broadcasting the petty poetry tonight. Has there been an attempt made and I didn't answer an email or something? What happened here?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Yes,
And
we will find out,
Same.
because that's my final thing here, and we just got to conduct some business right here. As we're talking about, I've been texting back with the intelligentsia of the university as we're doing this, and Julia and Anaya, it's pretty much an open invitation, as Vanessa knows, that if you have an idea for a show here, and people use it. I got a ghost show, I got a entertainment show, so all sorts of sports shows. It's a lot of students at PNW that bring their ideas over here, and that's how things get rolling. Slow down a little bit during the pandemic, but at one time I think we had about a half dozen student shows. And that invitation is open to you guys at any time to use the resources here on the campus to put a show out on radio and on TV. And I think that Julia and Anaya, there's a germination of some sort of idea or something or whatever, but it's an open invitation. It's on you. It's your responsibility how you want to use those resources, but the message you have needs to be reverberated through the region. So it's open. You take it from here. How's that sound?
I'm ready. I got a show for you.
Okay, I had a feeling that Julia already has it written up and already schematic.
They're coming your way, Jim.
Hey, Vanessa, it's always good to see you. Everything good in the personal life, my friend?
Yes, everything is good. Thank you for asking.
All right, and Yolanda, Julia, Anaya, I want to hear from Julia and Anaya. These guys have my contact. And then I would put you in touch with Tony Panic, who just graduated out of communications there, and he would coordinate it. He'd just sit right where I'm at. You go in that studio 10 feet apart, or you could zoom it in, and you can just start talking, and you can take calls, and you can do whatever you want. Your message is important, and we want to hear it here on these studios, okay? All right.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you to everybody. I'm going
Thanks,
to end
everybody.
this. I'm going to end this and go back to Richard. So thank you. And
Thanks,
I'll talk to you
everybody.
guys soon.
We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
All right, Richard, how are you, my friend?
That was a terrific
Holy
show.
moly!
Wow.
Well, I mean,
Doesn't that make you feel grand?
Well-
But again, we can't, it's not an isolated feel grand. We have to. This is just all the time what we need to be working on this.
Richard, I would love to sit and chat with you, but any moment now, you're going to leave, and I'm going to roll out my yoga mat there, and I'm going to get my class done.
Oh, right.
And I start around 9:15.
Okay.
So I am. Oh wait, no, it's 10 o'clock today. It's Thursday, so I got a little more time. Richard, we're long past PNW. Okay,
Little
this is wide open stuff.
Okay.
This white privilege thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have trouble with it, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
We go on vacation, right?
Right.
My wife is a Mexican gal from Gary and EC, right?
I know.
we can't go here. We're not going in there. It says this. We're not going there. It says that. I'm like, listen, we're walking in there and we're going to sit down and we're going to have a drink and nobody's going to bother us. Oh my gosh, why, I don't want to do that. We're walking in. I want to have a drink. It says right here, VIP section, whatever. Don't worry about it. We walk in, we sit down, we have a drink, and it is a feeling that I don't really quite understand where, you know what, I'm walking in there, I'm doing it. And I got to guarantee that the women that were there, along with my wife, just don't have that same feeling, man. They're not wanted to come in there and spend their money at times. And you got to really stretch your mind as a white dude that has had those advantages. I won't use that term. I think it's very political.
Yeah.
But white, that have had the advantages. You know what I'm saying?
Right, I do. But people have to be open to it, Jim. This is the thing with white, even because so many people just are repelled by even the statement of white privilege. They don't. But this is why what I said earlier about a big part of my academic world has been about teaching the African American experience, because I honestly believe if that 400-year history was really understood clearly, and it wasn't just talked about one time in one civics class, but that people could talk intimately about experiences. I mean, look what Yolanda did. For the first time, she shared with me today her family making the Great Migration from Mississippi. That is huge in this conversation. How millions of African Americans try to escape the horrors of Jim Crow, only to come to places like Iowa and still find a great deal of racism.
I cannot. I'll never forget that. My wife and a couple other Mexican gals went with the 3 white dudes they've married, and we went to the upper level executive club for a Notre Dame football game.
Right.
And they were the only people of color out of 150 in there. And it gets even worse. We were all Purdue fans, and Purdue was playing Notre Dame. Purdue scored a touchdown, and these 3 Mexican gals just got up and started clapping and everything. And I could hear the comments.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, I feel like I'm going to beat somebody's ass right now.
Yeah.
And I had Matt Reardon put his hand on my leg and say, just relax.
Yeah.
I go, I'm literally going to go over and punch that guy in the face. And he's like, just chill out. It'll just get exacerbated, and we'll all get beat up and go to jail. But it exists, man, and unless you look for it,
right.
It's there. Hey, I'm going to leave I'm going to take a call. You got to go?
Joe, I'm good.
Hi, how are you? Talk to us.
Hi, that one girl said continue to fight.
Hold on a second. All right, hold on 1 second. All right. We have a scheduling problem right now. I have to go to the washroom. You and Richard Rupp are going to talk to each other, and I will be back. So don't say anything stupid, MX, all right?
I won't.
Oh, hello.
Good morning, Richard Rupp.
Good morning, Max.
Good morning. That one girl said continue to fight. I didn't know colleges incited violence.
Well, do you really mean that, Max? Because, this was a conversation that this word fight has been bandied about in the media, people using the word fight. And I think, frankly, a more fair reading of the word fight is continue the struggle, continue the process. But, I don't believe those folks are talking about, battering down buildings. I mean, they're talking about a political, social conversation, pressing issues. But I really don't think, focusing on the word fight as an act of violence is really what they're talking about. It's a choice of words.
Okay, but there's a double standard, because when Trump said it, and he's been acquitted, the media was all over it. But you know what? Another thing I heard of BML, they were nonviolent all summer. And I was just wondering how Chicago got like that. Was that the white people that did that?
All right, Richard, I am coming back.
I think I got you, Richard.
No, hold on a second. All right,
I'm a little bit more measured.
I'm done. When you hum and haw and you gotta make something up.
I'm not. I don't get. Hold on a second, MX. Okay. Now, the one of the women there was talking about this, and she was talking about the storming of the Capitol and how that was met with a different level of resistance than was met with Black Lives Matter over the summer. And Does she have a point?
The double standard is her point. That this is where we're at as a white guy with gray hair. Now you tell me, Richard Rupp, BML had nothing to do with Chicago. Yes or no?
Okay, hold on a second. What do you mean a white guy with gray hair?
I'm 64 years old,
So,
right?
well, what is the double?
I want to
what
take
is the
Richard
double?
Rupp dirt bike riding first.
Maybe
See
you'll
what
get
he's made
that
up
at some
of.
point. But right now we have to have a discussion. And other than getting a little goofy on it, let's just get to a core here. You're a 64-year-old white guy with gray hair. Why does that matter in this discussion of race?
Because you guys brought it up.
No, but what is it? Is there
I
a,
said you brought it up. You explain it to me.
well, what is it about you
Richard
then?
Rupp said he's getting gray hair, and I am one of them guys with gray hair, and I didn't understand it, but have Richard Rupp explain
No,
that.
I'm asking you, MX.
No,
Do you
he brought
feel
it
as
up.
if, hold on, you're a 64-year-old white guy with gray hair. Do you think that your needs and wants and the things you have to say matter in America?
Oh, not at all.
Well, why is that?
Because when Black Lives Matter says it's a racial statement that all lives matter, that's not good. You look it up, the founder of Black Lives Matter also has that woman, Sue Rosenberg, on their board who bombed the Capitol.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, thank you for being so open. All right, so let's look at this, Richard.
Sure.
And sociologist, political professor, okay? That's what you got. Two guys getting a little bit windbaggy here, including, I'm the windbag, not him. All right. You got a 64-year-old white guy with graying hair that is on a regular basis is enraged about America and what is happening in America. Do you understand where, if you maybe just take racism out of it, just his, why that's happening here in the middle of America? There's a lot of MXs millions of them in the middle of America. Why is that?
Right. You mentioned sociology and political science and economics. This is something that studying this is a central issue about how America has changed and how and what explains those changes, particularly of this demographic that you're talking about, Caucasian males over 50, over 60, and a big part of it is economic. We know that the country has changed substantially. And particularly for individuals who don't have a college education or have been historically, if they've had a college education but are still in the manufacturing fields, they have been hit and hit hard. And so as far as the changing economics as far as wage levels, the rising cost of education for their kids, my parents spent $1.95 to send me to Hayward State, 30 years ago. The changing for health care, and so we've seen flat wages, modest inflation, but increasing costs for people in these areas, and they see them in part. This is the economic side. Then they also see what a perception of that because. Caucasians are dropping in relation to the proportion of minorities rising, especially the Hispanic community. Many of them, unfortunately, see that as a direct threat to the positions that they've held in the United States since the establishment. So their world is being shooken up. Many of these people harken back to the quote unquote the glory years, maybe the Eisenhower years. And those years were years where you didn't see many black faces on television. You didn't see any Asian faces on television. And you look at television today, and it reflects a very different world.
Let's take some more. Well, I got a few minutes, and you know what? This is my Friday. Actually, this is my Friday show.
Right.
I'm done here in a little bit.
Not me. I've got a long day, and then tomorrow. Oh my gosh!
Hey,
Saturday.
You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, great show. Iowa's a great state. I got a place in Elgin, Iowa, but there's only 3.5 million people that live in Iowa. And that's But anyway, it's amazing. Your station started when you were mad that one day when the flood came, and man, you were smoking. I wish I had a tape of all that stuff you were saying then. But getting back to your privilege and that real quick, you know, Father Fusco gave me his season tickets to Notre Dame after he died in his will, and I didn't know how I was going to pay for them. They were $800 with parking. Last year they were $3,500, and then they wanted me to get a sky place so I could drink before the games. So I told them to. Well, I'm not going to tell you what I told them, but I think I have a pretty big file over there. You know, the parking was $100, but you know, and I'll leave you with this. I helped these nuns in Gary on Ridge Road, and you know, last year they were shoveling without, you know, they didn't have their shoes on, and so you know, I kind of helped them, and they're smiling. Gary's an amazing place. I mean, these guys were shoveling the street with their shovels. You know, why don't you go to? They're the nicest people in the world. But, you know, and I made $1.85 an hour at Jansen's, you know.
All right, hold on. You got a lot in there. Thank you.
You know, Jim, can I say real quickly what he mentioned about the cost of entertainment? I think that spills in exactly what I was talking about moments ago. When I see the cost of professional athletic events, you know, how does a working class family take their 2 kids to the Bulls game? I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of dollars for not the greatest seats.
Well, they're not supposed to.
Well, that's the point, right?
They're not supposed to take them.
And that fuels a lot of anger out there because, you know, when my dad used to take me to the 49ers game, my dad's a cheap pilot. I know my dad. He's not going to shell out $125 for his son to go to the game.
219-845-1100. Hey, Dr. Richard Rupp and I hanging out a little bit longer. What's up?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting when your previous guest basically said, I mean, actually came out and said it to you and your guests now that you guys need to come out and support this and support that, and specifically Black Lives Matter. And there are aspects of Black Lives Matter, as the previous caller pointed out, that maybe a lot of people aren't all that comfortable with. Even black people may not exactly be comfortable with every aspect of that. So I think one of the issues is you're either down with the struggle 100% or you're a racist SOB.
I don't think so.
Let
me tell you why I don't agree. Because Black Lives Matter is a big umbrella group, like the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. And if you're a Democrat, my guess is you don't believe with everything that the party says. And if you're a Republican, you don't agree with everything the party says. So it's a matter of identity. And the problem is that when we get into this point, if you're a Democrat, you're evil. If you're a Republican, you're evil. You know, I have really, you know, Tim Sanders used to work at Purdue Northwest. He's a Republican of astounding legend here in the area. He had a real problem with Donald Trump, but he believes he's a good Republican, and he is. So I just think it has gradations.
I believe I'm a very strong conservative. I don't consider myself a Republican at all.
Mm-hmm.
To say that, you know, for your guests to say, yeah, Jim, you and your other guests, you and you, Richard, you guys need to come out in support of this. Wait a minute. Don't tell me that I have to support everything that you believe in. Otherwise, what am I less in your corner because I'm not out there honking my horn, driving my car around Purdue Northwest for Black Lives Matter? That's ridiculous. That's like saying that's absolutely insane. It's either you fall in line or you're not part of the crew. And Jim, I do have to call you out on one thing, because when
it's about my hair, if it's my hair, I'm not taking it.
When MX called in and he said, you know, I'm a white guy with gray hair. Well, what does that have to do with it? What does race have to do with it? Jim, if there's one person in the Calumet region that throws out that his wife is Hispanic more than you do, I don't know who that would be. So
okay.
I would have to ask
those are fair criticisms. But let me ask you a question, okay?
It's not a criticism, Jim. It is not a criticism at all. It is an observation.
Okay,
when it is in somebody's favor or your favor, you cannot get out the fact that your wife is Hispanic fast enough or often enough.
All right, you've made that point, and I appreciate it. All right, but here's the question that is bothering me, and I can't quite figure this out, because I do talk to people on the coasts from time to time. And it's like we're like this weird island all the way up and down the middle of the country. And I have this conversation with this one woman. I'm like, I don't think that you care or really understand what the average aging white guy is going through in the middle of America. What is the average aging white guy going through in the middle of America in your mind?
Dude, I'm just trying to get up and go to work every day and pay my ever-increasing bills and taxes. That's what my life is, Jim. My life is to freeze my nuts off in the wintertime, sweat like a dog in the summertime, work as much overtime as I can so that I can keep paying increasing property taxes, increasing taxes on this, increasing water bills. I'm no different than the average Hispanic guy or the average black guy. Enough with this segmenting everybody, and then we're all this, and if you're this color or you're that color, you all have to support this, or you guys are chasing your tails in the sense, and I'll put it this way. You are looking for perfect race relations and the perfect equality. It's like chasing global warming. It's something that's out there, and you can say you're doing a lot about it, and you want to have a meeting, and you want to have a show of video, and all of this stuff. But in this Calumet region, how long ago was it Hammond's graduation high school rate was less than 40%? How can we shoot for all of these things that we know we can't grasp, but we can feel better saying we're doing something about it?
All right, Bob, excellent question. Bob, I got to move it. All right, hang on the line. I'll take one more phone call, but Richard Rupp's got to leave. Thank you, Richard, for hanging out. Interesting discussion.
Interesting discussion.
You started.
Yes, indeed. All right, you have a great week, Jim. Enjoy your day off. I got to head out to the office. Take care, everybody.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, and there ought to do it. Hey, you're the final phone call of my week. How's that sound?
Well, it sounds good, Jed. Good conversation, good debate, a lot of good input. I want to just follow up by saying this. We talk about the racial dynamic as it relates to this country, but everybody kind of migrates back toward the economics of it all. If you work in Gary like I do about 4.5 days a week, you can see the disenfranchised folks there. It's just sad to see that city and its state, given what I remember it to be like in the late 60s and early 70s. Race relationships in the South, it used to be overt. In the North, it used to be covert. It's still kind of covert, especially if you attend a Notre Dame game like you just said. White privilege, white Anglo-Saxon privilege, 1%, top 10% economically are going to those Notre Dame games, will still pay for those tickets. We both have friends that have those tickets yet, and it's ridiculous, the cost. So I'm going to say this is as much about economics as it's ever been about race.
All right, leave it right there. I got to end the show. I appreciate your comments. Thanks so much. All right, guys, we went a little bonus time, and maybe once in a while you catch a topic that needs to be discussed, and we discussed it, and we'll leave it at that. But I do need to move on, and thank you for listening. Hopefully we'll get Anaya and Julia to bring their message here. And if you guys were watching earlier, it is on February 27th at 8:30. They're going to start lining up at the parking garage on the PNW campus, and they're going to try to go all the way around the campus a couple times and see it as a car parade for Black Lives Matter. And I'll send Tony Panic out there, and he'll bring us some video and let us know what's going on. That should do it for me for the week. I went a little extra today, so I don't know if I'm going to come back at noon or not, maybe. But I got so much going on. I'm going to make the decision right now. I'm not coming back at noon since we went so long here. But somebody will be here at noon, and I'm not really sure who that's going to be right now, who I'm going to make do it, because I'd like to keep us together for coming on at 6 and noon and 3 and maintaining that touch. But I do want to do one last traffic look. We had massive traffic all morning long, and for the most part, all of it is open on the Borman Expressway. I won't go into what the problems were earlier. All right, I'm going to end this video. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and more